Hello, I'm Tobey Nelson, certified professional horticulturist, coming to you from Venture Out Nursery on Whidbey Island. Today we're going to talk about our favorite Pacific Northwest natives and how to incorporate them into your garden. But the first question we might ask is, why should we incorporate them into our gardens? So some of that has to do with climate adaptability. So plants that are native to our region are going to be the most adapted to our weather patterns. So our dry summers and wet winters, these plants take that in stride. They don't need help from you once they're established. If it's not raining, they hang on. You don't need to amend your soil heavily to grow these plants typically. The other reason to include them into your garden is if you are interested in gardening for the birds and the pollinators, these are the perfect plants to choose. The food chain starts at the insect level. So insects eat plants and other things eat insects. Most birds get most of their food from the larvae of insects and insects, much more than berries and nuts and seeds. So the best way we can invite birds and wildlife into our gardens is by including plants that feed the insects. So that's an important thing. And then also habitat loss, right? So as we have developed subdivisions and clear cuts and logging and shopping malls and roadways and highways and neighborhoods and all these things and lawns, we have lost habitat. And without habitat, we can't have these birds and critters continuing to live. So all of us need to incorporate natives into our gardens, maybe get rid of some lawn and add back more wild areas so that we can promote the health of the species that are native to our areas. So for the Pacific Northwest, in your gardens, the strategy I like to employ is when I'm in my garden and I'm thinking, I have a bare spot there. I need an evergreen ground cover. I ask first, well, what native will fill that role? So some ideas for that here would be the creeping Mahonia, Mahonia repens, which makes a yellow flower in the spring. It likes a little shade. It is native to a forest understory situation where there might be kind of a woody, loamy soil, but Mahonia are tough plants. So you can also try it on bluffs. That creeping nature is good for helping with bluffs and anywhere that you want a ground cover. A couple other native ground covers that we love would be creeping bunchberry, Cornus canadensis, and the native wood sorrel or Oxalis oregana. And both of these plants are very good at spreading. They both make a white flower. And the Cornus canadensis, not only does it make a red berry in the fall, but it also provides fall color. It's in the dogwood family. These plants both are native to a shady-ish area, but again, they're tough little plants. And a great thing about including a ground cover in your garden is that it helps shade the soil and it helps retain the moisture. So more than mulches, ground covers are great to include in your gardens. Then working up from there, another plant that's so useful in any garden is an evergreen shrub. It provides interest all year long, it provides habitat all year long, and some of our favorite native evergreen shrubs would be the evergreen huckleberry. Has a wonderful white bell-shaped flower in the spring it's followed by blue fruit, which are delicious to us. Huckleberry pie, anyone? And also the birds. I also am always certain to include an Oregon grape. This one is the Mahonia aquifolium. Again, it's that yellow flower in spring. They also make the purpley blueberry, which is where the grape name comes from. This one can grow sort of like 4 to 6 feet tall. Great in a shrub row, also great for retaining soil on a bluff. They have a slightly suckering habit. Then other people are looking to create privacy in their garden. So if you're looking for a screen or a hedge, these plants are great. And then we meet our friend, the California wax myrtle, Myrica californica. This is an evergreen plant that is adapted to slightly coastal conditions, so it's very tolerant of sandy soils and some wind. This is a plant that in its youth might be nibbled lightly by deer. So for the first few years of this plant in your garden, you may want to provide some mechanical barrier to the deer, like some chicken wire or something like that. But once it's established, you can pretty safely remove that, and the deer generally leave it alone. There are other favorite friends like Salal that we don't have pictured here because it's not in stock yet, but we take care to keep our native section stocked and restocked. So we pride ourselves on the diversity of offerings in our native section here. So then we've got our evergreen shrubs. Well, how about some deciduous shrubs? So for instance, we all like a flowering shrub in our garden. So I love the native the native mock orange. This is Philadelphus lewisii, and it provides a fragrant white flower in the spring. So it's perfect for delighting in the spring, for viewing, but it also provides nectar for our native nectar feeding insects, and it's just beautiful. Also, the native red huckleberry, Ribes sanguineum, this is a sight that can take your breath away in the spring when it's flowering. It has pendant little drooping groups of pink flowers that the hummingbirds also love. So this is a hummingbird magnet, and the native pollinating insects like it. Both of these plants are also an important source for larval insects. And then we have Oceanspray, which is a beautiful white summer flowering plant that gets tall and arching and makes a lovely screen, perfect for mixing into a hedgerow. And these are also important for insects, both the nectar and the larval forms of many insects. And all of these make nice, dense stems for birds to pop in and out of. And then they do make seeds that the birds will also eat. Another important plant for the larva of many of our native insects are the willows. So willows are great to include in your garden. They will tolerate that winter wet soil. Many are also tolerant of summer dry. So if you have a site that's wet year round, willows are the perfect choice. But if it's got standing water in the winter and dries out in the summer, you needn't worry because willows are tough. So this is Salix lasiandra, but there are several native Pacific Northwest willows that you can choose that are perfect. And you can be sure that if you include these in your garden, you're going to be seeing butterflies and many, many beneficial insects and pollinators. I don't have shown here, but maybe in, anyway, the native populus, so the native poplars are also really important larval sources. Another small tree that I like to include is the serviceberry. So the western serviceberries bring us a stunning fall color display. They also have gorgeous white flowers in the spring. If you're looking for more small trees for your garden, consider the native hawthorn, which is tolerant of wet soils as well in the winter and puts up with lots of summer drought. White flowers in the spring, fruit in the fall, in the summer and fall for the birds. Another not pictured friend would be our native crabapple. That's another important small tree that you can include. These are great for sun. As we move to our shadier gardens, the vine maple is an excellent choice. Again, a stunning fall color display. It's some of the earliest flowering plants, and those our native insects love the willows. They love the willows, but they also love the maples. So the vine maple is great for our spring bumblebees and other pollinating insects. If you have room for bigger trees in your garden, since we were just talking about maples, of course, a big leaf maple is a quintessential Pacific Northwest native that is loved by all of our early nectar feeding insects. We also can think about native evergreens like the western red cedar. People that need screening in their gardens and have a lot of space can employ the Western red cedar. If you don't have quite as much space, but you want that look for the Excelsa cultivar, which tops out around 20 feet tall and only 8 feet wide. So this is the perfect choice and my preferred alternative to the Leland cypress, which is not a native and is really too big for most gardens, but people don't realize it and they plant it anyway and later regret it. So spare yourself the regrets and look for the Excelsa cultivar of the Western red cedar. And then shore pine. If you garden in a windy, hot, arid spot where few things can tough it out, that shore pine is the perfect plant for you. I hope this helps you with choosing a native plant for your Pacific Northwest garden. Thanks so much, and come visit us. If you have questions about what native plant, come visit us. We would love to help you find the perfect match for your garden. Thanks so much. Thanks for watching. Happy gardening.